We're live. Well, we were just literally just saying before we went live about the dialectic of the beauty between the line of the creative between being out in the open and facing all the demons and slaying them positive, and the opposite duality of just being under the radar and in a very quiet place. So, well, before we sort of carry on that discussion, I mean, again, for myself and to generally, one, how you doing tonight, my brother? And secondly, what have you been up to for the last few months? Because I was saying to you before we went live, you've gone completely, as we were just saying, into that off radar. Nobody knows where you are, what you're doing. So just give us an overview since we last spoke and what you've been up to.
Well, I've been working quietly on finishing up my master's degree. It's something that I was dedicated to from the very beginning, but as time went on, it became more and more demanding, obviously, as any academic pursuit goes. I'm very nearly done with that now. I'm finishing that up at the end of June. Actually, 1 month from today, I'm graduating. So I'm really, really excited about that. And it's been an amazing program and time in my life of learning and becoming more aware of of art is going to look like, and or what it could look like at least. And I guess the reason why I've also been writing music at the same time as doing all that, but I've been writing new music, and I guess I've been off the radar, know what I'm gonna do with that music yet. So until everything kind of settles down before I can obviously express any of that. I have to wait until the music fully expresses itself before I know how to express it publicly, I guess.
Okay, well, dude, there's so many kind of points I want to start with. I mean, it's a fascinating thing, and I'm always fascinated by people who have finished a degree course or anything. What would be the one thing you've taken away from it? Because I know there's so much information, and I'm sure you could spend hours sitting here telling me the whole of the course and everything. But what would be the one takeaway thing from it? And the reason I mention this, maybe the context I mention this in, and it's a kind of very relevant. I think maybe particularly people at your age or anyone that wants to study further education, but there's that balance between, and I don't know what it's like in America particularly, but over here you go into so much debt, and it puts you into so much future debt, and you think, okay, what am I going to get out of it at the end? And that's why I always fascinated to ask people, like, was it really worth it? Basically, did you get anything out of what you got through actual being in a course that you couldn't get just from internet and learning yourself? So I'm sure there is. So again, what would be the one insight or one thing you think you gained from the time you've been studying?
Well, I will just say that the debt in and of itself is a very big teacher. It's something that I struggled with for a long time after I finished, or I'm still struggling with it, don't get me wrong. Still very conflicted. Actually, the debut track from my first album, titled Killing Time, the music video is a direct response to the fact that I got myself into a serious amount of debt, like a very serious amount, something that I will be paying for 10 years at least, unless something crazy happens, which, is always a possibility. And I'm not trying to sell I don't want to sell myself short. Say, I am one of those people that I kind of think that I'm on the verge of different creative breakthroughs in a bunch of different fronts. So when one of those breakthroughs occurs, it could happen to where I'm able to just clear up a bunch of my debt in, one event. And I'm not.
Is it me you're looking for?
something's freaking out. It's not. My phone's either going off or my iPad. I don't even know. It's one of those things where that's not my plan A, but that's kind of like plan B would be to just get rid of a huge chunk of that at one time. But like I was saying about the debt being a teacher in and of itself, it's something that you have to separate from to be able to do anything, to be able to even live a functional life. I have to be able to see myself as a human being first, and then take all of the material stuff and that's all just bonus. That's all just extra whatever. It really is meaningless. The numbers that they're telling me are really just bullshit numbers that someone made up for I don't even know. There's so many reasons why money before it was a control mechanism as a legitimate means of civilization advancing. I believe now we're getting to the point where we're going to be ridding ourselves of those types of systems. And the first step in ridding ourselves of those types of systems is to immerse myself in it and be able to separate from it. Even though I am completely responsible for all of the consequences of being in debt, I have to be able to separate from that at all times to be a functional and productive human. And that was a life lesson that I would not have gotten if I wouldn't have gotten myself in $45,000 worth of debt.
Well, I think what's fascinating about what you just spoke upon then, and I think it's something we've spoken upon before, that isn't it fascinating that human beings have put this throughout history? I mean, you could go to the Bible and it says, the whole thing about debt. And I think the thing is, it's not so much like you said. I think that I've really been contemplating this the last few months, my friend. And it's kind of like everything we've been given in our this immense ability to have this mind functioning, living in this times where we can have this conversation. All this is more a case of what we give away as human beings. So we give ourselves in, and that's put it this way: if you're going to use the analogy of the good and evil and the devil and the God, the way that the devil rules the world isn't through as much fear and putting people into battlefields. It's all the little deceptions. It's all the temptations. It's all the little things. That's why I led that a very question to say to you. That debt that you've got into, and you gave a very erudite answer, but was the knowledge out of that gain worth that money? And this is where I think you're right. And we're going to go into a future where hopefully that the knowledge will be gained. But I think part of that knowledge is we've all got to realise, and I think this is the other dialectic that I've been contemplating, I think where we are now, is we've got to understand one of the greatest stones that drags us to the depths of hell is almost the foolishness to think that everything in this life is free. We don't. We live on a planet where resources are limited, and we've got to this idea that it's almost like, oh well, things are free, things are free, and then you start to take that into the environment and go, well, okay, now I've got all my little comforts around me that have. Dude, look what happened to music, man. Pirate Bay was seen as this great thing, and it was like, well, we all got new music, and it killed music because the artist didn't get anything. And it's kind of like now we're living in the world we do, and we need to understand that we do live in a limited, and everything. Our time is limited, our thought processes, the planet we live on. So it's a very difficult balance to get between of understanding that, like you said, we can gain knowledge, but some things we've got to I think part of that is understanding that we are just in this mortal sphere, that time and resources and not everything can just be grabbed and consumed under this illusion of like, if I get it all, I feel the whole, everything's going to be happy.
So, yeah, well, that was a lot. You were breaking up a little bit, so I missed a little bit out of that, but I think I basically got the gist of what you were saying. Yeah, it's hard to say, first of all, if the education that I got was worth the amount of money that I paid for it. I don't, what I will say is you don't have to pay any money to receive an education. You don't have to go to college to to learn exactly the same things that I learned from college, other than maybe the whole debt, which is maybe a lesson you don't want to learn anyway. Um, I, that being said, yes, the whole system of money does lead to well, what's weird about it is it never sticks around. It just never sticks around. As soon as I have it, it goes somewhere else. And it's for these, the walls that I have around me, the books that I read, the stuff that I use to make music, that's all bought with, and it's basically just a form of energy. And what I feel like we're going to figure out eventually is how to just make that energy not a form of currency, because we will evolve beyond those types of ideas, but that energy being what's important. And that energy is going to be what is traded amongst people and respected amongst people. And I mean, it already is.
Mm.
If an artist creates something that is completely worthwhile and worth someone's money, people are going to pay for it. And that's just an exchange of energy between the artist and the consumer of the art. And it's the same with business, and it's the same with everything else. I just feel like eventually we'll evolve past the economic system that is in place today. And it's sad to see this kind of never-ending struggle that which people live to consume. There's kind of, it's I consume, therefore I am, and I produce, therefore I am. And there's obviously neither of those identifications are completely true. They're not, but are developed to put you in one of those categories. You're either a worker and a producer, and you're fulfilling, all sorts of necessary things for human society to continue, or you're a consumer, which is actually the most important for a capitalistic society to be thriving and prosperous. So they're trying to get people stuck in that mindset of, okay, I'm working this much, and because I work this much, I get to consume this much. And they don't ever have to think about the environment or the people that created their goods over in Asia or even here at home, because factory conditions are not, they're just, working conditions are not good anywhere. Obviously they're better in the first world, but they're still not great. There's problems all over the place that the system of capitalism and economics that has dominated this world has completely created. And what it also creates is the so-called solutions to those problems, which actually are just more money makers for the corporations and whatever else.
Dude, I have to completely agree with you, but I mean, I always find it fascinating now that I say it so many times. I mean, I hear people in our parts of the world complaining about it. We are all the 1%. I mean, this is the thing about it. The fact that we live in the West, in the, England and America and Scotland and the rest of it, we are that 1%. There's so much people below us, but that's the point. The reason we can all live like this is because there is. This is the whole thing about this. To speak the truth about this world. Because you've got slave labor in China, because you've got the communists over there just putting people in factories and they don't know anything better. And this is the difference. we've never known any system on this planet that's ever. It's like this swings and roundabouts. So if you live in our part of the world, we look at the and go, oh, if it was all everyone got free money and free houses, and we were all just, and if it was provided for us, it'd all be great. And you've got everybody on the other side of the world going, dude, we lived that experiment. I've got friends in Venezuela, dude, and that experiment doesn't work. Just not even try to attempt that one. It's been attempted, and we've seen the piles of human bodies. We've, like you said, the evolving goes to the point of like, okay, does it matter if there's consumption? That it all boils down to, which we talk about, the individual. That's what I was trying to say to you. We all have the choice. I have the choice. That's one of the great things that we have got. We've got the choice. I don't have to go to McDonald's. I don't have to go to the shopping mall. I don't have to give my time and energy to television or to politics. I'm in control. And I think that, to me, is the ultimate, the thing that all human beings get to. Because if all of us got to that realization and stopped just trying to put everything onto everybody else and saying, how much am I responsible? It's the whole thing. Instead of changing the world, why don't you change yourself? Why don't you clean? Instead of these people going, I want everybody else to give something to me, why don't you go out and help the homeless? Why don't you give your money? It's that, as I said before, which is the point I was trying to make. Every old religious book talks about this. It says, what are you doing? Look at yourself. Turn yourself inward. Instead of trying to change the world, and look at yourself. Because I tell you, my friend, you know this, if just 10% of the world started with that attitude, we'd have a transformation of humanity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, yes, that is the ultimate point of art, I believe, is to offer reflection, offer that ability to turn inward and to realize that every single human has that amount of control and that choice to, exactly what you said. I don't have to go to the supermarket. I can grow my produce. And you know what? I don't even need to eat meat. I'm a vegan. I have cut animal products completely. And I've, like, there's so many options to reduce your impact on the world around you are as easy as, easy as changing your diet. That's something that I found to be in front of me as to how much a traditional American diet uses in water, in food to feed the animals, in just the amount of waste, and the amount of waste it produces alone was enough for me to know that I needed to give that up. That's not even to mention animal rights or any of those other things that I am strongly identified with now. But it's just simple choices like that. And people are not willing to step up and look at themselves, look at those choices and change, because they don't know how much of an impact they can have.
Yeah, I'll go even further to you, my friend. It's tied into this whole thing we're discussing, this whole dialectic. I mean, this is what people pay supermarkets for. We go down to the supermarket and I'll have my nice little, say my steak. There it is, and it's whatever. The person walks into the supermarket, they can get their lovely wrapped steak in shiny, it's lovely and blood red and appealing. They're not seeing the animal being butchered. That's what they pay for. And this is the point. And this is what I was trying to say. We're all giving, that's me making the choice and going, okay, I don't particularly want to see that animal butchered, so I'll pay my price for it. And the price I've got to pay as a human being is that I've got to give some of my time to someone else to earn the money to do it. And this is what I'm saying. We don't have to do that because, as I said before, we all know there's people on the planet now. They live on that very principle you just talked about. Hey, I've grown my own food. If I've got to kill an animal, hey, you talk about, I'm not talking about whether you're vegan or not. There's so many people that want to go and kill animals. At least they're butchering it and doing it themselves. Mm-hmm. This is the point. We're all just distracted. And the thing about it is, now this is, I think, the key. We're almost becoming to this point of going, oh, well, we're just victims of this distraction. It's all, we're powerless. And it's like, no, we've all made this choice. We have the choices. That's the greatest thing you're discussing. You can make small choices, like you say. It's amazing if you don't eat the meat, how you can change your life. But no one's forcing you to go to the supermarket and buy that product. No, this is the point. And I think we're very fortunate, my friend. And this is one of the things, the truth we both know. We're fortunate to where we can have these choices. Because there's so many other places where through economics, through circumstances, through just having to be born in the wrong part of the world, we don't have those choices. So for us to do it, this is where I'm saying we can really affect change. And this is why I think it falls on our shoulders more than it does to people in other parts of the world, because we have the technology and all the things we're discussing, that if we don't use those, and that's what I'm saying, when you hear people in our part of the world complaining, you think, stop it, go out and change. Stop just complaining and be a victim, empower yourself and make some real change.
Absolutely, man. Oh, you're really hitting the nail on the head there. And yeah, I believe that was something that I had to learn as well. I didn't get that right away. Even in my adult life, I didn't even get that. I was expecting for things to be handed to me. I was expecting, all of it. And it wasn't until I had some hardships relationally, financially, academically, getting into debt and everything, that I realized that, we have power here. And I'm in a spot where I'm in the exact spot that I am because of every single little decision that I made along the way. It's that waking up at 6 a.m. or getting back in bed at 6 a.m. or in my case, even 4 a.m. And that's all it takes. Wake up, have that extra 2 hours to yourself. What you want to do with life, time, before you have to just go to work or whatever. I still have to go to work the whole day too, but at least I have the time to make music and write and everything.
Exactly. I mean, let's just be real about this. Life is suffering. That's what our whole of this experience is about. We're slowly decaying. We're going to eventually just be dust. We came from dust. We're going to return to dust. And all that time we've got in it. This is what I'm trying to say. This is what I think one of the. It's like I say, choice. It's what we do. It's how we. Like I say, life will be suffering. This whole. It's not one great. Let's all pat ourselves on the back and we're just going to breeze through. No, life is going to be suffering. It's like you were speaking upon. It's what you do with it. You look at every circumstance. You go, okay, good. Okay, I've just lost my best friend. Okay, good. What's that going to teach me? How is that going to empower me? What can I learn from that? What can I do to stop one of my other friends dying? Or it's always, like you said, that mindset, or we just cave in. And this is why I always like to be real in these conversations, because I understand, dude. It's easy to cave in. It's easy to for your mind to think, oh man, this life is suffering and what's the point? But the real truth of it is, and I've seen so many people, I've been down, I'm not speaking to anything but being real myself, I've been down those dark paths and gone really internal and all that stuff. But the trouble is, as I said to you before we go live, you at some point you have to realize, and I think you spoke upon it when you just said then, we've only got this one life. And at some point, you just got to go, I've got to claim it, because I'm not going to be around for 10,000 years. I could be gone in a flash. I'm lucky I wake up every day in my life and I'm thankful. I think, thank the whatever, that I'm alive today. So you've got to grab as much as you can. And like you say, and it's a state of mind. And that's the most powerful thing that any human being can do, is switch on that great mind of theirs and to realize, as you just said, nobody's tying us down. The only thing that's tying us down is ourselves. Nobody. That's why I don't like all that conspiracy shit. It doesn't matter. I don't care if there's 10 men in a smoky room. They're not changing my life right now. What I eat, how I treat people, how I think. That's just the real power we got. It doesn't. I think you spoke upon it so clearly, and you're right. It's always on the creative people, the musicians, who I think like we were just saying, who have this responsibility because of the time and the place we're in, to shine that light and to slay as many of these negative demons as we can see.
You were cutting out there at the end of that one.
Of course, man. Of course, Google.
I know it was something good.
No, dude. My point I was going to make to it was kind of really where I wanted to start this whole conversation with. It was this whole point about when you do put your neck above the parapet as a musician or as a creative or an artist, you're putting out there, and you should do your best. You should go out there and slay it and try to be as positive as possible. But it leads me back to where you're saying, dude, it's a dialectic between the going out and where you mentioned what you were at the moment. You're off radar. So again, what's been what are the things you found the best about being off radar? And are you getting to the point, as all creative people do, when you suddenly get to the point where you're off radar, and you have that itch to go back and go, okay, I've had enough time swimming in the deep, dirt, murky waters off radar. I want to go back to the beach and show what I've learned. I mean, how close do you think you're to that point?
It's funny that you asked that. I actually just went in and recorded some vocals for a little EP that I'm working on this past weekend. So I've been, I guess, one of the good parts about being off radar, so to say, is that it's given me a lot of time to be working on new music and to really kind of decide how I felt like the last release that I put out went and how it was taken by people. And not that I'm trying to cater to anyone or anything like that, but I do want to, be able to connect with people. So I applied the things that I learned there, and I have come up with some more songs that I think truly represent who I am, and will also be able to connect with maybe not a larger audience. And I'm not trying to as many people as possible, but I feel like people who it needs to connect to more easily than my first release, which was maybe a little bit too personal, too much my own sound and style to be able to like really instantly connect with someone potentially. Whereas this next music, I feel like we'll be able to grab that instant, okay, I want to hear the rest of the song, or I want to dive into the meaning of this or the message, or at least just jam out the rest of the song.
Okay, so in this process, I think it's fascinating that you think you just spoke upon.
And so that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm getting very close to at least having the EP ready, and then once it's done, I will figure out exactly how I'm going to be putting it out into the world.
Okay, so this begs a few questions, my friend. Firstly, you just said then that you feel you around the EP. Is there and again, maybe you want to speak about it, maybe you don't and just want to let people listen to it, but has there been any kind of new musical areas you've gone into, like, because I know you, dude, I mean, if anyone knows your background, you've gone from proper hardcore metal right through to keyboard. So have you found any kind of new, tapped into any kind of new flows and any new instruments in this?
So it's pretty much an evolution of the first Osuwi release. I would say that it's more evolved as far as the electronics that I use to create the sounds. I have been really diving into different synths and different plugins and different ways of creating those types of electronic sounds that I feel like have come together in a much more cohesive way than my first release. And that was something that I feel like it just takes time and energy to develop that type of skill. I also have been trying to advance myself or push myself vocally. And so that's actually at a recording studio with one of my friends, was to have him push because previously I had recorded everything and produced everything on my own by myself without the opinions or feedback of anyone else. On this, I went into a studio to make sure that I was getting the best takes, to make sure that it was well received on, at least the production end, and to make sure that I'm going to give him the songs to mix and master, because I want to just get his opinion on it and to get his take on my music. And I think that is kind of a step forward for me, instead of trying to hold on to everything so tightly. I think that collaborating will actually lead to greater results.
I think you're right, my friend. I think again, it's like everything. There's a duality. I mean, I think there's a place and time for people doing individual stuff, and I've gone down that route the last 6 months and just done completely solo piano stuff. But I think you're right. I think the heart of music is ultimately it's the collaboration. It's this experience with other people. There is something about when you create music, you want other people to give you feedback and stuff like that. Now, the question that immediately came to mind when you were talking about this, and I know someone who's I speak from experience. You talked about your vocals and stretching it. Now, man, when I've done anything to do with music, I don't mind people criticizing me for my piano or my guitar, but dude, it's just something raw and naked about standing in front of someone else and just with that one vocal. Now, I know that the world we live in right now, it's all about auto-tune. It was one of the things I was going to discuss with you anyway, because you did a lot of auto-tune in your last one. So when you just mentioned that now, I mean, you said this stretching your vocals. How did you find that experience? Because I don't think many people realize how I think it's one of the most nerve-wracking balls-out moments to stand up and do it. So how did you find that? And what did you say? You mentioned, you're stretching your vocals. I mean, again, enlighten me and give me some insights into what you mean by that.
So I guess I am going a little bit more vocally driven with the music, this electronic music. And I was the front man for a metal hardcore band like you were talking about earlier. And with that's entirely vocally driven, but it's a different type of vocals. The screaming, it's a little easier to get into that zone and just like go crazy with it. It was a little bit harder for me to tone it back and then try to capture like a little bit of an R&B type sound, some pretty poppy-ish vocal runs and stuff that I hadn't really tried ever before. So that's, I guess, what I mean by stretching or like pushing my vocals, was trying new things that I had experimented with on my own in front of a producer, even though he's my friend, he's a great friend. I've known him for years. Still nervous feeling going in there and just singing those tracks in a completely silent studio. I actually was really comfortable. At the end of it, because they did studio vocals for years, and the only other time I had done them before, I had done a little bit of singing, but it was mostly screaming. So at the end of it, I was like, man, I don't know how that turned out, or I don't know how that's going to sound, or I don't even know if my singing was good. It could have been shit the whole day, but at least I did it. That was the thing, is like that. If you don't try it, how are you ever gonna know? And how are you ever gonna like progress as an artist or in life at all if you don't just try it at least? And yeah, I don't know if it'll turn out good. I hope it's all right, but in the end, going and spending that time and money for a studio and doing it the kind of the right way when it comes to producing music, I am glad that I went with that route for this EP, and hoping that it will lead to good things. So
I think you're speaking upon something, and I think it's been a kind of theme what we've been speaking about tonight, really, about creativity. Because I think the one thing about the vocals you said, it's ultimately the one thing we have got. We're stripped down to everything. It's that, and that's why I've always said. I mean, I don't know if it's the same reflection you've had, really, particularly in your past and stuff. Maybe not so much in metal, but you'd have that whole thing about training your voice, and I think it becomes like when I hear people go to do music theory at college, they come out at the end of it and it's like, oh yeah, I know all the jazz riffs and shit, and it's like, I've spoken to many musicians who come from musical college, and they actually say the worst thing they ever did was do it because they can't now rid themselves, and they're trying to unlearn all the things they were taught. And I think it's the same with vocals. And the reason I say with vocals back, it's that bare naked thing. And I think that the key to me, and I don't know how you feel about this, I'll tell you your thoughts on this, but I think the key with vocals is basically trying to find that voice inside you, but keeping it as natural as possible. And not trying to be like sounding like, you know, Bruce Dickinson or like, you know, like Johnny Cash or something. Just trying to be yourself. I mean, Bob Dylan was always the one. I was always a Bob Dylan fan, and I remember the amount of shit I took for like, that guy can't sing properly, especially in the 80s. And that was all a big thing about, oh well, they can sing their notes properly. And it was like, oh, I don't like Dylan, he can't sing properly. And it's like now nobody ever kind of bats an eyelid to it. But I think this is the whole, what I've always said. I think the unique thing is trying to get your voice, and then, as I said, play with it, but not try to make yourself sound. Because I hear so many, dude, I hear so many vocalists, particularly when, you know, in the music we like, and they all like, dude, you're not Bruce Dickinson. Stop trying to be like, or stop trying to be like, you know, what's his name out of Slayer, or it's so difficult, man. Again, I'm giving my thoughts. I've never been a singer. I've only ever asked to do it once on stage, and I was like, never again. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, my friend.
Well, what I quickly will say is that from the very beginning of my musical aspirations, which was when I was a child, 4 years old, I knew that I wanted to be a singer, and I knew that voice inside me was something that was wanting to come out. And what's funny is I kind of put a lot of those things together actually this weekend while I was in the studio. And what I would notice is when I started to think about it a lot, when I started to try to change the way I was singing, or, you know, make sure I was hitting a note correctly, or holding out something for long enough, or like my pronunciation was weird, so I had to think about it, everything got fucked up. Everything got fucked up. And that's when Wes was like, nope, 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 nope. And then as soon as I knew, as I remember after, you know, doing that for a handful of times, and there were good takes in between the bad takes, but after doing that for about an hour or so, I was thinking to myself, it's like, I've been singing these songs in my room and in my car for months, getting ready for this moment. And I know that I can do this. And I also know that whatever my voice sounds, what it's going to be. And that's who I am. And that's the music that I'm making. And as soon as I kind of came to all those realizations, Wes was like, yes, 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 yes. And I was just hitting the takes. And it was a really weird kind of shift. It was a momentum shift, and it was, you know, we're changing humans constantly. We're changing it constantly, and you know, it's a spectrum. It's not two places. It's not heaven and hell. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very large spectrum that exists somewhere in between there. And that was a moment where I shifted from not being in hell, but being in my mind and kind of over analyzing and over, you know, just being overly active, and then shifting into just trusting and being actually being creative and productive in the trust, from the place of trust, because that's the only place where it ever will actually come out.
Exactly, my friend. This is exactly what the theme of this very conversation, because You're absolutely right. I think I personally, just the insights of my, reflections of my journey being, my life is, I think you have to go sometimes. To use the analogy, you have to go out and swim the dark, murky waters, and you have to do that. And you have to come back as a creative person, and I think it's, as I said before, that's why I think it's a Zen thing that we do, for the want of a better word. We walk the line between the yin and the yang, that fine line between I don't want to go too far into that way, and I don't want to go too far in that way. And it goes back to, like I was saying before, we talk about, even that period you're in right now of, which is, it's the same thing. That isolation period, that period when you're off radar, every creative person, anything you're talking about, like you say, you go deep. You go into levels that people will be like, why are you even thinking that stuff for, man? Be like, no, I need to do it. I need to almost cleanse myself and swim myself into that stuff. But I think this, like I say, you always come back to that line. And I think that the lesson, this is what I think I wanted to really speak to you about tonight. When you are exiting the off radar bit, or like you said, that the moment you were like, when you, for want of a better word, the hell, and you're trying to strive towards the line in the middle, not going to some heaven sort of thing. I think that the lesson that I want to, and I think being real about it is trying to take the best of this, because I've been down those times and I think, okay, I don't want to neglect all that. I don't want to forget all this. I don't want to kind of like, all the dark stuff, but it's learning to go, okay, so if I'm out in the public, like for instance, being off radar, let's take it literally. You're not being seen by many people. You're doing stuff very quietly. You're creative. And then you're out in the world and everyone, like you say, take it to the extreme. Everyone can see your picture. You're everybody, everybody knows what you're doing, every move. And like, oh, Kane was doing this tonight and Kane was singing at this bar. And all. I think that the lesson we've got to learn is what the best bits you can take from that dark part of the place you've gone and go, okay, look, what did I like being off radar and how can I implement that in my life so I don't have to lose it? Because I think this is one of the things I see that people do, is that they go from one extreme, then they go completely to the other extreme, and like you said, they don't see the spectrums in the middle, and like take the best bits of both and don't try to fly one way, and because you end up being, dude, the real truth, there is no heaven and no hell. There's hell either side. That's the truth. I mean, there's these people talk about, having all the money and all the success and all. That's a hell experience. Yep. I've often thought. I mean, this is the point. When people, go on about all the people up the top. I can't think of anything worse than having my life being under the scrutiny of people. That's why I like. That's what I'm saying. What creative people do. We love being off radar, but it's what I'm saying. You got to learn to take the best of it, and that's what I'm saying. It's all about choice, because these people, and I feel this way when I hear people, celebrities, who are on a better word, and they're going, "Oh, it's." Well, I thought you've done all this. You chose to do this. That's what I'm trying to say. It's the choice, and it's the lessons we learn from the experience we're in. So that's what I was trying to say to you. I think it's taking the best bits of what you found in this off radar experience and taking that and using that as a shield or something you can go out to the world out there and say, no, I'm not going to become, lost in the other side, because that could be, dude, you're absolutely right. I mean, I'm sitting here, when you do a creative element, let's take it, you'd want the best thing for it. And the best thing for that would be like, it blows up the worldwide, and you literally, like, everyone wants to know everyone then. So you've got to learn the wisdom of going, if I do create this and it does do that, what wisdom can I take? Because, dude, we know so many people go the other side and they do that. And it's that creative line, man. And that's, I think you're speaking some very wise stuff, man. And I'm so glad that you're going through this at your age, because, dude, I know people my age who don't even get to the level of it, the wisdom you're getting to, let alone try to practice it.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And I do feel as though I've been through a lot. Someone my age, I feel like I've experienced a lot of break and things that I signed myself up for, so that I, in the end, so that I would grow from it. Obviously. When I signed up for it, I didn't think that's what I was signing up for, but that's what I was signing up for. And it comes from, the strength comes from struggle, and the people that experience a life of stuff being given to them, and, being in front of a camera and all that stuff, you know, they're going to have to learn a completely different set of lessons than what I'm going to have to learn. And, you know, this is going to be a little bit of an off topic, but I was actually just like right before I was getting on this radio or this call with you, I had Justin Bieber stuck in my head. And I mean, he's catchy. I've always enjoyed his music. Very catchy. It's produced by the best musical minds on earth, and there's totally doing it systematically. Don't get me wrong, but it's great, and it's good music. And Justin Bieber was someone who was pushed into everyone wanting to know what's going on with Justin Bieber all the time at a very young age. And we all saw what happened to him when that happened. He kind of had a little bit of a downward spiral and a crisis. But what's really, really cool about Justin Bieber is, you know, and I don't know how much of this is just fabricated or bullshit or whatever, but what's really, really cool about Justin Bieber is seeing the way that he's handled himself since then. And to see him kind of come back around, be like, yes, I know that I let that get to me, and I'm now trying to be a human again. Trying to do things the right way and for a purpose, which is like big. Like, I don't know if you've listened to that song, but that song is a ode to God, the universe, to life, to himself. I believe that he wrote that song for himself because he now realizes the true purpose behind the music and the power that he holds. It's not so that Justin Bieber can be famous. It's so that he can connect with people. He can provide that energy for people that people literally need to get through life. Like, I would not be here if it was not for my favorite musicians. And for so many people, their favorite artist is Justin Bieber. And they probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. So thank God for Justin Bieber.
Well, dude, I mean, you know what? It's ironic you spoke upon this because it's one of the things I've said for a long time in my life, and I think this is why I'm so passionate about this. I think you just hit on something that is absolutely the truth, that the responsibility that falls on the creative people. For instance, just take this a step back. For so much of human history, particularly Western, well, all over the world, really, the people in the arts, why were they always seen? Why were in a time when people were scarcity and, you know, they had horses and all that stuff? Why were the arts seen as it? What was it about the arts that people liked? Why was Da Vinci put up on a pedestal? Why were all the people who sculpted the fine statues all over Mesopotamia? Why were they held in such regard? It's because they're trying to, as you just said, they've got the power to basically put a message out to humanity in a way that some leader or politician or whatever, or religious person can't do. And this is the thing that creative people have got. That all this talk I hear about, you know, Trump and Clinton and Merkel and the EU and all this kind of stuff, I think, dude, you know who has the most power? It's the creative people, the musicians. You're right. Justin Bieber has more power to shape how people think, and it's what the responsibility that falls on all our shoulders. Now, I don't see it as a weight. I see it as an honor that we've got the ability, for whatever reason, because I don't think everybody on this planet is creative. I've far from it. I think there's a very small pool of people who've got the mindset to be creative, and those people, it's our honor to get up and have to think, okay, we've got the ability to, like you said about Justin Bieber, to disseminate information to a great deal of people. That's what's always frustrated me about the world. I don't get so much frustrated about politicians because I think that's the nature of politics. I get more frustrated about the people who are in the arts who talk about supporting this politician or that politician, or supporting this party or that party, or this system or that system, or this ist or that ist, or this ism or that ism. It's like, we're not here to do that as creative people. That's the role and the honor we've been given, that I'd argue through history. That's why thousands upon thousands of human bodies have been laid high on war fields, so for people to do what I'm discussing, and not just to go out there and write about booty and shallow things. That's why I get really passionate about it, dude, because it's that whole thing. I want somebody up there. I don't care how their voice sounds, how good they are, as long as they're being themselves and telling me something that's real, and not just standing up there and giving me something that's shallow. And that's what I think you're absolutely right about Justin Bieber, because I think at some point, as a human being, you've got to, like he will do. He'll realise that, hey, dude, I mean, I think it's ironic, man. I think this is one of the things about our world. We're too moralistic about people. What did Justin Bieber actually do? I'm not a Justin Bieber fan, but like, oh, he went off the, what? He went on, he threw some eggs. I mean, dude, if someone put a camera in my life when I was 20, dude, I wouldn't want to know. I mean, I'm lucky enough.
Right.
Dude, I think this is honestly true. I'm starting more and more in my life to realise how fortunate I was to grow up in an age pre-internet. Where when I was in my 20s, dude, I didn't have Facebook, I didn't have to put my life out on the line, and that's what I'm trying to say. But the bigger point I'm making is, and I think you hit upon it exactly, is the role upon artists and musicians is that we've got that platform, and it's what we do with it. And this is, I think, the weight that falls on our shoulders. And I think you're right, because if we use that in the wrong way, I don't think we can just say, oh, well, okay, I've got my success. I think we're doing a disservice to humanity. That's why I get so angry with musicians and stuff. I think, look, man, I would love to stand in front of 100,000 people and tell them to have this conversation. And they get up there and talk about shake your booty. And it's like, oh, come on, man, what are you doing? You're not evolving humanity. You're just sinking it into this, where you started this conversation, into this whole thing of just being basically a time slave. You want to consume and you want to buy this product, and it's just as I say, the weight doesn't fall on the weight of the politician. A politician will be a politician, a bureaucrat will be a bureaucrat, and a military will be a military. The one freedom we got as creative people is that responsibility. And I honestly, truly do. I feel this. I might sound really harsh and whatever, but I just think so many artists and musicians they don't stand up to the mark, man. They all fall.
Yep. And I think that's definitely true. And in many ways, I feel like we all fall short of certain things, but at least knowing, there's certain things that I can stand for, knowing that I stand for positive forces for humanity, for the earth as a whole. And without those things, why would I even be on stage? Without those things, why would I have any sort of, I would have nothing to say. I would have nothing to say if it weren't for those values and that energy that I can feel inside me. And I know that it has to be expressed and it has to come out. And what's the strangest thing about it is a lot of the times I have no idea where it comes from. I have no fucking idea. And that's all I'm going to say about that. It just works because it has to work.
My friend, I think that's exactly what I was trying to allude to. It's that very point. And the thing that makes creative people is that it's exactly right. I voiced this, hey, you start talking about this stuff to people out there, and they think it's like, but it's honestly, it's like it just hits you like a channel. You're like, whoa, where did all this come from? It's like the universe. It's like, it all comes into your head and you flow it out. And I think that's the point. I think this is why creative people do walk these lines. And I think that's why they do go off because they're like, how did I catch that again? It's like the ultimate drug. How do I get that? How do I get that moment again? How do I get that flow again? Okay, well, if I was at that time, was I on a low one, and maybe I was, sitting there reading Dostoevsky, and maybe that's what's it. And you try to replicate all the things they do to you, and I think that's a load of bollocks. I think the real truth of it is, it's the open your mind up, and if you want to be in the creative flow, it's trying to get as much shit in your life as possible that's going to stress you out, because that's the truth. I mean, that's the thing I've learned in my long, hard walk on this life, is that there ain't no, it's not found at the end of a bottle, it's not found in drugs, it's not found in running 10 miles a day, or it's not found in certain food. It's just found in what you do with this and what you basically allow into your existence. And I think that's the whole thing. The more you allow in, that's more time it's going to take you from you being in that creative flow. But equally, you can't just go like the whole we're discussing. You can't just become this isolationist hermit on the monk, because half the point about creative, you need to go out and find that energy in life. And dude, that's why I say, I mean, we're truthfully right now we're the bottom of the pecking order. The true musicians and artists, we're all just scorned out. All my life it's been the case. But ultimately, we do the greatest power to this world. That's what I'm saying. We're the greatest heroes. And I don't mean that like, oh, aren't we great? But it's true. Because we're the only ones that can do this. Because most people can't go. This is what I was saying before. Most people got, as you know, get up, do their work, go home. And they rely on people like you and me to go, okay, I want you to go and swim in the murky waters. Find out what you found out there. Take some of it back, the insights you've got, so I haven't got to go out and do it myself. It's exactly what we're saying, mate. They're basically consuming of us. And if they're going to consume from us, we've got to give them a good product. And I think half a good product is telling them the truth. And I think to lie to people, as you would quite rightly say, and not ultimate lies when you don't be yourself. And that's great. It goes back to Justin Bieber, it goes back to every human being, whatever they do. As long as you find out and be who you are, because I'm always being real about this, man. But dude, I've even this year just lost someone. It's like I just can't do it anymore. I can't be this fake shit of telling people like, no, you've got to be yourself. Can you put your head on your pillow at night and go, have I done? Not looking at life and thinking, is it all success? Because that's a lot of bollocks. But have I done what I can in my life? Where am I? Look after yourself, because I'm not being funny, man. We don't want. None of us want to lose anyone else. I don't want to lose anyone else, and this is the truth that needs to be rung straight and true to people. Forget what goes on out there. Check yourself. Look at yourself. Know yourself, man. That's an age-old thing that the Greeks talked about. Every philosophy stuff. Know yourself. And it goes back to what you're just saying, because, like I say, Justin Bieber can have that moment. We can all have that moment, but we need to get through that. And I think it's really important. As I was saying before, that's what us creative people, we have that privilege. We have that ability to go, we can know ourselves, because we can, that's what we say before, man. All creative people, as much as we're scorned, as much as the great work we do, we're very privileged. We're the kind of people who can sit around and do this shit, man. And it is a privilege, because not everyone can paint and not everyone can write music and not everyone can do this stuff. So it's a privilege. And I think it's with that privilege goes, we do carry a great weight of responsibility. And I think that's what people ultimately, in a very long-winded way of saying it, that's what Justin Bieber has realised. And great, man, dude, I hope I'm not going to sit and listen to his chats, but if he just, as I said to you before, if he inspires 1-2 people that he maybe never meet, like you're doing, I said this before to you, dude, it's true. This is all creative people. When you put something into the universe, you'll inspire somebody. You may never know, maybe one person, but hey, isn't that your job done? Then you've fulfilled, this is what it's all about.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's, I say this to you, dude, because I think it's very true, because that's what I'm saying. You're a very powerful symbol of this. That's what I'm saying. Hello? Can you hear me, pal?
Sorry, you were cutting out at the end of that one.
Dude, no, mate, no, I couldn't hear you either. No, my friend, I was saying that I think one of the most powerful things, I can only speak to you as a human being, the greatest inspiration you have, and I think you were speaking upon it, is you have been to a dark place. And dude, that's very inspirational, because we live in a world where people don't really talk about real things, and you standing here in front of a camera, man, I can see it. I'll be real with you, though, man. You look a different person to what you did last time I spoke to you. You can see it's all been lifted, but I don't want to deny that person I was talking to 6 months ago, because there's a truth in that person, and this is the power that you have, because people need to see that you can walk out into the murky waters, you can go swimming up, but you can come back. And that is such a powerful message that you're glowing tonight, dude. It's compared to the last time and other times I spoke to you. Like I say, it's not a good and it's not a bad. This is what people need to see: real human beings in the moment being real. And I think it's so powerful.
Totally, man. And what I was trying to say, I totally just messed up, but I just want to thank you for doing love people and connecting all these artists and it is so awesome coming on here for the few times that I've been on this podcast and the other podcasts that we did with the studio guys, and they've been like really not only sources of inspiration, but just something to like really, really look forward to and just know, okay, we're talking, we're chatting, it's going to be out there. And this is stuff that's important, and it's not always discussed when it comes to art. And yeah, knowing the real story, what really goes down for a, basic level artist. I think if the more people know about that, the more they'll appreciate the art, and the more that those relationships can flourish. And yeah, so I guess to anyone out there, if you're watching or if you have listened, thank you for also being a part of this conversation, because you are just as important as a listener as we are, obviously, as contributors.
Yeah, and I think, my friend, and you know my thoughts on this, but we are right now in this renaissance, and we're at the very beginning of it. But this is what we're seeing now, and I always said, man, beyond anything else, and okay, there's going to be platforms coming, and there's going to be better ways of getting resources to people. That's great. They're all little wins along the way. But I've always said, and this has been my the real drive of what I've done with everything in my life. But I've always seen this ever since I was a kid, thinking, if we could just get 10% of the people I know, not me particularly, but you know what I mean, it's, I always say, herding cats. If you could just get 10% of the crate, for instance, if I could get 10% of the people that have been on this podcast together and just get them, I have this conversation, I have it with you, and then I'm the next person, and it's like, okay, we're on the same page, we all think the same thing. But then trying to connect all these artists, and to me, if we could just do that and get 10% of the real creative people together, and the shift would be immense. And this is where I think we're so fortunate, because I'm old enough to remember, like I said, the day before the internet. And this is what I wish the internet would come to. This is what I hope technology would get to. Not the fact that it becomes easier, but we can connect the people that need connecting. Because if we could connect just 10% of the people who are creative, and we could just start talking to each other. Dude, we could, man. Look. I always look at it. Look how much gets achieved by just little breakthrough conversations like we're having right now. Our kids are going to look at this and laugh. They're going to go, "Oh, they were sat on screens. How old-fashioned is that?" But look at what we've achieved. But look at mate. That's why I'm always. This is honestly true to me. Whenever I do any of these conversations, I go home and I turn it off and think, man, this is it. This is amazing that I can connect with somebody in Colorado that I've never met, and we can get. And this is what I'm trying to say. You think, this is what I'm trying to say. Where we're at. We're just at this point of connecting people, and this is why I personally think that it's going to be like we are now. We're like a caterpillar. We just consume, and we're going to transform into a butterfly. And we could argue maybe we're doing that right now. We're in that cocoon stage, or maybe we're starting to open our wings a bit, but the world that's about to be unleashed, what we're seeing unleashing around us, is going to be so immense, because I think for the first time ever, we're going to connect all the world, not just as like in the Enlightenment in Europe or in Greece where they back in the day, or Mesopotamia. We're going to have all these people, and we can all connect and be real. And it's not going to take much, man. That's why I'm saying it's like the whole of this system, the whole world we live in, is a paper tiger, and it's just going to need a little blow, and we can go out and live the lives we should be living, man. And that's why I think it's so inspiring. I say to many people, man, for you, and you being the age you are, in the times you are, man, it's kind of like the magical part of life. I mean, you're not 200 years ago. It's like the whole of human history has just been pinnacle for this moment, and you're there in your mid-20s, dude, and you've got everything. You've got your health, you've got everything about you. You've got it's man. That's the great things about being alive, man, and we should all remember that.
Yep, absolutely. So speaking of that, I guess all of this stuff that we've talked about is very much a lot like what my music is themed to kind of bring out. And my first album specifically is about the system behind. I'm still a part of the system, but I've left it behind. Do you know what I mean? Like, it sucks me back almost every day, but then I somehow make it out of it again. But the song that you were wanting to play out for the end of this is titled "The Waking Hour," and I believe that we are approaching the waking hour, and I believe that, in fact, the alarm is going off right now.
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting because like I say, I think it's a great time to wrap this conversation up. And I did want to play the waking hour, but I want to give you my reflection on this too, because to me, the waking hour, it's fascinating that you spoke on that, because to me, the waking hour is this moment I am now. 2:00 in the morning, everybody's asleep, and it's a perfect time. To me, the waking hour is that moment when everyone's asleep, and it's kind of like I feel this for a moment. It's just me in the universe, and I think it's the most magical time in the world, man. I love that waking hour. It's kind of like, you know what I mean. So hey. Isn't this the whole point of art and creation, that you've written a song, your reflection is one thing, my reflection is another thing, and the truth is somewhere in the middle of it, man. And that's what I love about only music and only art can do this, because things in this world are very much black and white, like you said, whereas what we do is we dance down that line. So dude, like I said, I do want to finish with Waking Hour. Again, while I am doing this, man, and I know it's at the moment, and I was going to say to people, where can people find you? But nowhere. They can't find you anywhere at the moment. So my question to you really is, before I do wrap this up, man, if people do want, I mean, obviously there's a SoundCloud and stuff like this, but where are you thinking of? Are you thinking of going back out and sort of putting your head onto Twitter again, or are the Twitter, Instagram days behind you?
Well, I've gotten back on Instagram. Twitter was just a little bit of a bad habit for me, I feel like. So I can maybe come back in the future, but I get in too many fights with Trump supporters and stuff like that right now. See, it's just almost too hard for me to get on that kind of thing, because it's not that I'm trying to avoid the state of the world, but it's just too easy to get in those stupid little arguments and everything that consumed so much of my time before, that is now just spent enjoying, or at least attempting to enjoy, my life and to produce music. And if you are interested in checking out my music writing and otherwise, I have a website, iamosuwi.com. That's OSUWI. iamosuwi.com. And my album's up there. There's links to where you can buy it on iTunes, Spotify. It's streaming on SoundCloud, and there's a link which is on YouTube for free, and I guess I do have Instagram, which I don't post on very regularly, but sometimes I will. So, but also about the waking hour, I wrote that song in the waking hour, thinking of how much I do love and appreciate that time of day. As we've discussed many times in our previous conversations, that is when most of my creative energy is accessible and wanting to be expressed.
Yeah, well, perfect, man. Like I say, while I do cue this up, dude, before I do, I mean, again, thank you very much for your time, dude. It's been, as always, an insightful conversation. It's one of those, like, I think, to me, the sign of the benchmark of a great conversation is when you're left with more questions and you're going away. And that's what I'm going to be going away tonight. So it's been, again, thank you for your time, dude. And as I said before, we're edging closer and closer and closer to the point where one day you're going to get over here in Scotland and we can actually get to hug each other and pat each other on the back as humans to be human being as it should have been from day one. But
Hell yeah, man.
but like I say, man, while I am queuing this up, like I say, thank you for your time, and like I say, just while I do queue up, just maybe just I don't know, just your parting thoughts from while I'll just queue out and then we'll play out with waking up. But like I say, I want to thank you, and all the way from over here in Scotland to all the way over there in sunny Colorado. I want to say life is people, but we'll be playing the waking out. And while I'm queuing up, over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Tim.